Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Monday, May 17th City Council regular meeting. I want to begin with a little bit of a breach of protocol instead of an invocation. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in memory of Rick Hale. Some of you may have known Rick. He was probably most well known as the proprietor of Rick's Bait Shack down on the east end of the Beach Marine area down there. But unfortunately, over the weekend, he passed from liver cancer. He served as a Jacksonville Beach City Councilman from 1981 to 1989, including 2 years as Mayor Pro Tem. And as you can imagine, when you're the proprietor of the Bait Shack, he hosted a lot of different community conversations, formally and informally, down there at the bait shop, and was a fixture in our community for many years. So just want to ask if you guys could take a moment and join me in a moment of silence in memory of Rick Hale. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Dumont?
Here.
Councilmember Golding?
Here.
Councilmember Jansen?
Here.
Councilmember Meza?
Here.
Councilmember Nichols?
Here.
Councilmember Stokes?
Here.
Mayor Hoffman?
Here. Item number 086.
I move we approve the council workshop, the minutes from the council workshop held on April 22nd, 2021.
Second. We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Ms. Dumont.
Thank you. Under section 2, for the purpose of the workshop, we also discussed and agreed to adding, when we talk further about the section 2 part, is to add regular charter reviews into the new charter. We didn't decide 5 years or 10 years, but that's not in there, and that was part of the discussion. So these just needs to be amended to say the consideration for regular charter reviews.
There's a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Roll call on the amendment. Or I guess I don't need to do roll call. We'll just say all in favor. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Amendment carries. Back to the original motion for the minutes. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 087.
Move we approve the minutes from the city council briefing held on April 26th, 2021.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 088.
I move we approve the minutes from the regular city council meeting held on May 3rd, 2021.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements from the council. Ms. Golding.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that Coach Kevin Brown set up a test pilot kind of setup for the PVC barriers on Saturday. The mayor was there part of that time as well, and we had a handful of volunteers that worked on putting in the PVC barriers from 8th Avenue North to 6th Avenue North. And we essentially were able to do the 2 blocks in 2 hours, which really wasn't too bad. And I think it looked pretty good. We actually had to tell several people to not be in the dunes. So we hope that those barriers will help to discourage people from going into the dunes. But Coach Brown is supposed to be doing some additional work, adding the PVC barriers this week with students, because he has got some students that will be able to come out during the week and do that. So he will try to knock some of it out with students, but he does intend to set up an opportunity for all of us council members who would like to help put the barriers up near the Seawalk Pavilion. So he'll be letting us know as soon as he gets that set up, and hope we can all have some fun doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Golding. Anybody else? Mr. Nichols?
Just wanted to reiterate what you were saying about Rick Hale, just a great member of the community for a long time, and just feel like I really learned a lot from the guy. Just he's really going to be missed, and he did a lot for Jackson Beach, and I appreciate everything he did.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. I was honored to be able to attend this morning the Uss Stark Memorial. If you've been around this community for a while, it's been 34 years since the Stark was hit in the Persian Gulf, killing 37 men, and it was a Mayport-based ship. So it was a huge impact on our community and our country. In fact, President Ronald Reagan came and gave the eulogy at the memorial service that was held on base after that incident. So it was held at the Atlantic Beach Veterans Memorial Park. Instead of it's normally on the base, but they had to move it off base to be able to do it during COVID times. So it was really, really well done, and a very fitting remembrance. Also just want to thank our council and our department heads and key staff members who spent all day Friday, the second most beautiful day of the year, inside working on strategic planning for our city. It was a really great day. Luckily, we were just missing work. It wasn't a Saturday, so we weren't missing fun stuff. But it was a great day. Everybody was involved, excited, enthusiastic about planning for the future of our city. So thank you all for your candor and your active participation in that event. And then last, but certainly not least, when you flipped over your calendar this week, you should have seen that it's National Public Works Week. And this is one of the unsung tasks of our city. A lot of that work is underground, and you don't see it until it's not working. And we're really glad we have such a wonderful public works team here, led by Dennis Barron, our public works director. So I'll just let you know what this is all about. APWA is proud to announce Stronger Together as the theme for the 2021 National Public Works Week. This year challenges our members and their citizens to think about the role public works plays in creating a great place to live. By working together, the impact citizens and public works professionals can have on their community is magnified and results in the ability to accomplish goals once thought unattainable. So thank a public works employee. Again, you probably won't see them unless something's going wrong. So when you see them, please thank them for their hard work and all that they do for our city. That is it for announcements. Thank you, Dennis, and please pass on our appreciation to your team.
I definitely will.
Okay, we have courtesy of the Florida visitors. I have one card, but it's attached to an agenda item. We have a proclamation for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. The representatives of that group are at Neptune Beach. Our meetings are held at the same time, so they'll be coming in at some point, and I'll go ahead and read that proclamation when they come in or at the end of the meeting, whichever's closest. So we're going to start with a presentation by the North Florida TPO staff on the North Florida Transportation Improvement Program. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. My name is Denise Bunnywith, and I'm Planning Director for the North Florida TPO. And this time each year we come and we present projects from the Transportation Improvement Program that are relevant for you here at the beach. The Transportation Improvement Program is a 5-year subset of the Long Range Transportation Plan. In November of 2019, we adopted the 2045 Long Range Plan. The TIP is a rolling document. Basically, it's the 5-year work program for the Department of Transportation. The first project I'd like to mention is Atlantic, and it's not all projects at the beach. It's projects that, if you're coming to and from the beach, that you are likely to encounter. The first is Atlantic Boulevard at San Pablo Road. It's a traffic signal update. Construction is in fiscal year 21-22. So it'll be beginning after July 1. That's when the new fiscal year begins. The second is Atlantic Boulevard from the Kernan Overpass to Mayport Road. It's a resurfacing. Construction for that project is in fiscal year 23-24. Next is Beach Boulevard from Beach Plaza to 3rd Street. Construction for and it's an intersection modification. Construction will begin in 23-24. Then Beach Boulevard, the next project is a trick project. It's just in there to see if you're awake. It's actually the other end of Beach Boulevard. It's in there by mistake. The Beach Boulevard from 12th to A1A is a resurfacing. Construction will begin in 23-24. Then Butler Boulevard from the Intercoastal Waterway Bridge, bridge rehab construction in fiscal 22-23. Again, Butler Boulevard from the Intercoastal Waterway Bridge to A1A, or resurfacing construction in 23-24. And Mayport Road from Atlantic to the Naval Base, a safety project, construction in 21-22. These are a number of intersection improvement projects. Then Mayport Road also, it says bike lane sidewalk. It's really a road diet. They'll be narrowing the lanes and adding like a bike lane, a sidewalk, but more like a multi-use path. We haven't seen the final design. It's the PE phase only in 21-22. We're hoping to see construction in 23-24, but right now it's not programmed. That's been a very high priority for the city of Atlantic Beach, even though it's actually in Jacksonville. It goes from Atlantic to Dutton Island Road. Next we have State Road A1A at 2nd Avenue North. It's a pedestrian safety improvement. This is going to be some signal work and enhanced crosswalks. And that is in fiscal year 21-22. So sometimes after July 1, it won't be let probably until late in that fiscal year. And then a Wonderwood Drive from James to Sandcastle is a resurfacing construction in fiscal year 21-22. And that's everything. I also want to point out that in our Unified Planning Work Program, which is our 2-year task-based budget, we're just coming into the second fiscal year, which will begin July 1. We have a study that's been requested by the City of Neptune Beach to do a feasibility study to look at the possibility of winding a trail for the East Coast Greenway to Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, and Jacksonville Beach. So that's going to be a tricky project to see if it's feasible. And you have the opportunity each December. We ask all of the communities, all the local governments, the counties and the authorities if they'd like a study. And we can't always do everyone's study, but we do ask, and we do about 10 studies each year. So you have that opportunity as well. And the best way to find out when we're doing the COFA projects is you are entitled to representation on the technical committee for the TPO. So we do send out those notices. So if you think of something, usually the studies range $80,000 to $100,000. So if you have a burning need for a planning type study, we do bike studies, we do corridor studies, we do any number of different types of studies. If you look on our web page at the Unified Planning Work Program, look at special projects section, you can see the variety of types of studies that we do. We have our general consultants do those studies. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think we're going to have a couple questions for you, if that's okay. Can you elaborate a little more on the Beach Boulevard to 3rd Street intersection modification?
I do not have all the details, but I will be happy to follow up with you. I can communicate with I will talk to DOT, get the specifics, and I can follow up with the city manager or with you directly.
I think we do we have those details at this point already, or is that the median
Do you have
on
the
Beach?
details already?
Yep, that's the median extensions along Beach Boulevard and the few islands to direct the traffic.
Okay, so that's the main crux of that
Yeah,
project.
usually it's probably with intent of improving safety in that corridor.
Yes, it is.
My office overlooks that corridor, so I support this. Ms. Golden,
Thank you, Denise, for coming out tonight and for always doing this update for us.
This will be my last one.
Is it?
I'm retiring in December, so, but somebody else will be here.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I don't know how many years I've seen you now coming to these meetings.
It's been many, many years.
Yeah.
Because I've been with the TPO, it'll be 33 years, so, when I retire, so.
Well, thank you so much. Quick question for you. I know that there's supposed to be a pedestrian crosswalk that's supposed to be also constructed at 15th Avenue North on 3rd Street. Do you know when the construction for that is supposed to happen?
No, that might have been in the current one, fiscal year, I can find out. It's probably, if it was in the first year of the TIP, that's the year that's rotating out, it's probably about to be let.
Okay.
But I can check. You said 3rd and 15th?
Yes, ma'am. And I believe it should be like happening soon, I
It's
hope.
probably just about to be let. The last project, it's just, we're just coming up on the end of this fiscal year, and those projects they're just letting them now, so.
And so what does that mean?
Yeah, that means
It
if they're letting it with the contractor, they'll be beginning very soon. But I can double check.
Okay, thank you.
When I leave here, I'll send an email because I'm going on vacation. But I will follow up with Autumn and ask her to contact you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jansen?
Just real quick, are these projects listed on the website?
Yes, they're all on our website. If you look at Transportation Improvement Program, the entire document, which is hundreds of projects, is on our website.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have any questions, like, as I said, I'm going on vacation, but I'll email W. Forrest with 2 R's. Wanda can answer any question you have. This is her project, her document. I'm just helping out and help out with presentations every year, but she can answer any question. And you can also email me, because I'll be checking my emails when I'm on vacation.
Checking your emails on vacation as you slide into retirement, that's commitment.
But I will follow up too for the comments.
Mr. Nichols?
Sandy, I think that other intersection might be included with the State Road A1A at 2nd Avenue North Pedestrian Improvement Plan.
There is
It
an
might be
enhanced
multiple.
intersection, but that's in the new fiscal year, which means if it's in the new fiscal year, that project probably won't be let till later in the year.
Right. I was
And
just
there is
thinking
an
the one-
enhanced crosswalk in that project.
Okay, yeah, do you know if it's only one in that one? Because for $650,000, it seems like it might be multiple intersections, so I don't know.
I think it's probably, I would imagine they're doing the entire intersection.
Right, I'm just saying, the one Sandy brought up might be included in that project as well, and it's just this name, 2nd Avenue North.
I asked what was involved in that one, just because I knew that one would come up, and they just said enhanced crosswalks.
Okay.
They weren't specific about directions, but.
And then when it does come up for studies, can you let us know so that Mike can just send us an email just letting us know if we have study ideas?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've never seen the email from you all saying that study is coming up.
It comes to the person from the planning department that serves on the technical committee. That's who we notify. And then if you have and we're looking for somebody from the beach to be on our citizens advisory committee. So if you have a nominee for that as well, you could send it to L. Larson, same northfloritotpo.com. We have an opening for the beaches too. So, but the planning department person, I don't think they've done it the last meeting, but a couple meetings. But yeah, if you have, you just need to have active participation because we send that out every year, and we're always looking. Especially if we haven't done a project for a city for a while, those are the ones we try to pick. And if you look at the Unified Planning Work Program, you can see the variety of types of projects that we do. We do lots of different types.
Can council members fill the role of the citizen
Anybody
advisory?
can submit a project. Anybody can submit a
But
project.
can they be on that citizen?
On the Citizen Advisory Committee, it's usually not elected officials,
Okay.
but you can nominate somebody.
Okay.
And just, try to nominate somebody that's going to keep you informed. And then encourage your planning staff to participate as well. That's what I would really suggest.
We've had a retirement in that area as well.
I know.
So we're going through some transition.
You know, it's so funny because so many people are my age and retiring. Because the planning community is very small and everybody's retiring. So, but we need the blood, so it's good. And just really, we'd love to have a study from you.
Mr. Staphopoulos, maybe we can add this to a November briefing topic.
We can do that. I was also thinking as we get further into strategic plan and urban trails, we may have some corridors that we'd like looked at. So we'll bring something back to council in the fall.
We're doing a trail study now for Nassau. You know, trails are really good, for urban trails are really good out there. So we'd love to see more. Thank you. So, and I'll try and remind you, I'm not retiring until the end of December. I'll try to remind you in December to submit a trail. We really do the request in December, and we look for follow-up after the new year. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your presentation and your time. Moving on to item 091, do we have a presentation from staff?
091 is the financial reports for the month of April. These are financial reports required by the city charter. And as typical, our CFO is here in the event that council has any questions.
Can we get a motion? Can we get a motion?
No. I move we accept the financial reports for the month of April 2021.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Item 092, presentation.
I'll go in with a yes also. I think we skipped me.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
That was a tight one. That was a close one. Glad we got you in there. Okay, item 092, do we have a presentation from staff?
Just a very short one. This is related to the Senior Activity Center in the city of Neptune Beach. The mayor recently received correspondence from the mayor of Neptune Beach, Mayor Elaine Brown, requesting for an in-kind donation from the city of Jacksonville Beach, equivalent to the primary electrical service connection to that facility. Mayor Brown's letter to the city of Jacksonville Beach was provided to you all for your review, and staff is seeking direction from council on how to proceed with the request from Neptune Beach.
Thank you. Would you make a motion?
I move that we approve payment of the primary electrical service connection fee in the amount of $3,227.55 on behalf of the city of Neptune Beach for the Senior Activity Center.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. The next item, 093, staff has asked for that to be removed from consideration for tonight, and we already had 094 deleted, so we will head right on to 095. We'll go ahead and have a presentation from staff and then decide how we want to proceed from there.
I'm going to turn this one over to Director Barron for presentation. This is with regards to renewing processing a new contract for disposal of our biosolids at the pollution control plant. Dennis, if you'd like to come up and talk a little bit about the options that council has to choose from.
Mayor and Council, Dennis Barron, Director of Public Works. If you remember way back in February, we had a briefing where we discussed a greener alternative to disposal of our biosolids that are generated from the pollution control plant. And the guidance we got from your briefing was to go ahead and bid both options and see where the dollars fall and bring it back to you with a decision. So tonight what you have in front of you is an either or opportunity. The first one is a contract with Merrill Brothers, which involves hauling it to Indian Head Biosolids for a greener alternative. That would be an increased cost to the city. The hauling is cheaper than taking it to the landfill, but we incur a new charge of actually disposing it in the greener method. So the second one is a new hauler for us that would be continuing to haul it to the landfill, which of course takes up landfill space. It's not the greener choice. So what you really have here is a choice of how green do we want to be, and are you willing to spend the money to have a greener alternative to disposal of our biosolids? I'll take any other questions if you have any from there.
So since we have two motion options here, I wanted to give us a chance to ask questions and discuss before we put a motion on the table and see if there's consensus from the council on which one to move forward with. So we'll start with Mr. Nichols.
Dennis, what do you think the difference in the annual cost of these two options would be?
What
did we figure out? Hold on one second.
I can tell you, I calculated it. It's $64,250.
And that's a rough estimate based on 160 loads at a particular weight capacity, which matches what we did in 2020. So that might fluctuate up or down a little bit depending on what the actual tonnage is. But that's pretty close. I was going to say around 75,000, but that's, I think budget-wise, I think we planned on the financial impact says includes 80,000 for that. But if we've got to go the other direction, it'll actually go from 85,000 to 149. So there's a little bit of a difference to be able to do that.
So is that double? Is it almost? Is that what we're looking at?
It's not quite double. The hauling itself was, I'm sorry,
55,000?
Yeah, about 55,000 for Merrill Brothers, and then the cost of $29 a ton for the additional disposal. And the cost to go to the actual landfill was $84,000. So there's a $30,000 difference in hauling, but then we're going to incur a new $29 a ton charge for disposal at the Indian Head biosolid scenario. Our current hauler is Merrill Brothers. They've been hauling for us for the last 5 years, and they've chosen not to renew a contract with us. We had an option to renew their contract. They are not happy with hauling to the landfill. It basically requires pulling their truck onto unstable surfaces, raise it way up in the air. They've seen two other competitors dump a truck at the landfill. So they chose they don't want to renew a contract to take it to the landfill. That's where they come forward with this other alternative. And then we brought it to you as a briefing.
Have you done any review on the other vendor that their experience and quality, or is it just a little bit? I mean, obviously they're a qualified bidder.
They are a qualified bidder, and I mean, they're just a trucking company. They provide us with the yard dog to be able to move it. They provide us with the trailers. We call them and let them know when the trailers are full. They haul it to the landfill, dump it, and in turn we have an empty there to be able to move to. And so all they're really doing is moving it from our yard to the landfill.
Mr. Mezza.
Quick question. How many tons a year of waste do we go through a year? And I know our population in Jackson Beach is increasing, and among the beaches community, I'm just trying to wonder if the price will go up if we have more loads to drop off.
So annually, we have about 3,250 tons. That's a pretty consistent number over the years. Obviously, it's all part of what's the waste product after you get done processing through all the wastewater pieces. So that stays pretty consistent. It can go up and down and fluctuate, although we didn't see any really fluctuation in 2020 when you had more people at home and less people traveling for work. So it seems our numbers pretty much stay solid at those numbers. And I'll repeat your second question, or did that answer it all?
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ms. Golden?
I don't have quite so much a question as just a comment, I guess. My concern is with the cost difference, and maybe I do have a question. How can we support that cost difference? Is it possibly going to result in a potential rate increase or anything like that to our citizens?
No, I've had the finance department look over this, and as part of our annual water sewer fund rate increases, we've already looked at that for this year as well as going forward on through the next 5 years. So the current cost, the current CPI adjustment accounts for that, and we're able to be able to absorb that in that process. So there won't be any additional charge to anybody based over what we're currently doing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stokes?
Yeah, at the briefing, I was really hoping, I guess, that we'd be able to find a greener alternative, just knowing how bad landfills are for the environment, but just looking at the cost of $60,000 plus over 3+ years, I just can't justify that with the current economic cycle of coming out of COVID. We still don't know the financial impacts. So for my consensus, my option would be item number 1, of just continuing to the landfill until we know we're on a more stable footing, even though I really was hopeful that we'd have a better alternative after that first meeting. That $29 tipping fee is tough to absorb, even though we can absorb it. I just know it'll be eating into our funds for the future, where we could possibly use that for other projects around the city.
Mr. Nichols?
Yeah, I too was really hoping for a green way to be able to do this in a fiscally responsible manner, and I just don't think it makes sense for the financially. I think I'm going to have to stick with the lower cost, and we continue to look to see what we can do from in a green manner throughout public works and everything. But the additional cost just is really too much for me.
Mr. Mott?
Thank you. How many bids did you have for from the trucking company to go to the landfill?
We actually requested bids from more, but we received 5 bids, but Merrill Brothers chose not to bid to the landfill, so we actually had 4 active bids to the landfill that's shown on the second page of the memo, and only 1 that presented a greener alternative.
What is that reflective of a narrowing of trucking companies willing to do that kind of service? In other words, are we going to be only stuck with 1 trucking company going to the landfill for biosolids in any time in the near future, or is that still akin to the trash problem?
No, I don't think it's completely, I don't think it's related at all. Like I said, for them, trust me, we looked at some other alternatives, including internal usage, as to whether there was an opportunity for us, because it is literally a part-time driver that you're paying to take 3 to 4 loads a week out to the landfill and back, and that's it. So we investigated some other internal options before we made the decision to go external. Had a lot of capital costs buying trucks and trailers and things like that to be able to do that, as well as we got away from that because the landfill being all the way on 301, you end up losing the tire over there, you lose all kinds of manpower time and everything else. So we did do some internal stuff. Our bids for taking it to the landfill was $25.91 a ton, $35 a ton, $44.97 a ton, and then $133 a ton. So there was, and the 133 was actually a revised bid because their original bid was like $600 and something a ton. It was crazy. So I don't know what they thought they were bidding, but we called back to, because it was so far crazy, and they revised it to 133. So, and that was Waste Management. So obviously we know what issues they're having with trucking. So that is what it is.
And then the Indian Head Biomass Facility. I like the model that we discussed in the briefing, but it's still rather newish, if I recall.
I think it was new to us. It's not new to them. They've been doing it for a significant amount of time. And like I said, the one thing I did get from them was a memo stating that they would hold their prices solid for the entire length of that contract. So there's not an opportunity that it's $29 a ton this year and it's $35 next year. They did agree to hold that $29 a ton for the entire 5-year contract period. So At that point in time, you know, we would be back to either extend this trucking contract with an extension of that process. So there wasn't really, I mean, what they're doing is all approved through DEP, and it's all approved through the process, so their process isn't changing. They're continuing to take it and turn the biosolids, and they add it with the green waste, and they turn it into a usable compost. They just are collecting, they're kind of getting on both ends. They're collecting from the people that they're getting the stuff from, and then they're turning around and charging back to anybody that's buying their compost, so.
If we were to buy their compost, would there be some kind of a discount? And have we compared that cost with what we spend currently on doing that?
I guess I can answer that one. So they have two grades of compost. They have a general landscape grade, and they have a golf course grade. The golf course grade takes a considerable amount of refinement, and it's really fine particulates. They would not do any sort of a discount at all on that. However, they were offering all kinds of free compost of the other style if we wanted to bring it back or have somebody bring it back as well. So they didn't really quantify. I mean, they threw out a number of like 100+ tons a month that we could actually get back from them for nothing. But again, that's going back into multi-departmental. If they're using it to do massive planting beds and they want to reestablish or recompost all those, we believe we had a use for some. I don't know that 125 tons a month would ever get used. So it's one of those things they kind of offered back, but when they asked for a letter kind of giving me all that stuff, they just gave me the letter stating that we're holding the price the same for 5 years. So I didn't bring that up in the process because I was hoping they would give me something I could quantify back to say, this is a good deal because we're getting XYZ coming back as a free resource, but they would not do anything with the golf course grade materials because of the amount of handling they have to do to get it to golf course grade. And I do believe Trevor and Jason are both interested in still purchasing their materials. They may be able to get it cheaper than what they're already using now. So they're already investigating that piece of it too.
Okay, because our vision is to be a vibrant coastal community, and part of that is being sustainable. So if we were to follow the mission, the vision, we would be looking more at the biomass disposal versus just putting it into the landfill. There is a cost, and if Ashley could come up, I just need to, not that I don't trust you, I just need the numbers person to really explain to me how we can absorb that difference in the cost without raising the rates for our residents.
I'm Ashley Gossett, CFO. Currently, our water and sewer rates have an annual escalator with CPI, and it's been averaging between 2% and 4% per year. So over the 5-year total, you know, if the tonnage stays pretty much as estimated, it's about $300,000 to $350,000 over the 5 years, which currently our 5-year projection can absorb. You know, based on tonnage in the future, we'd have to kind of do another analysis for years 6 to 10, but at the time that our queue would be open again.
Okay, and what are we doing with it if we continue to go with the landfill? What is the $60,000 or so used for?
So that money would remain in reserves to be deployed to future water sewer projects.
Okay, thank you.
You're back again?
I'm back.
Jansen? Mr. Jansen?
That's an annual contract?
This is a 5-year contract.
5-year contract.
Yeah, so it was a 5-year contract, and I believe there's also the opportunity to renew for 5 more, just like there was with the existing contract. Like I said, if Merrill Brothers would have wanted to continue hauling to the landfill, we would have probably negotiated to just renew that 5-year contract. They actually, at the same time we were approaching them to renew, they approached us and said, we want to renew, but we don't want to take it to the landfill any longer. We want to go this other direction. So they're actually the ones that kind of brought to us the Indian Head opportunity to have a greener solution. And the one key to this whole thing is the interlocal agreement between us and COJ, and that we don't pay tipping fees. That's where you would have, if we were a different coastal community, even a different beach community, and we had a cost that was charged to our tipping fees, that would be a direct correlation. Now you know this is what it's costing to dispose of your garbage and your refuse, which we don't pay. That would make this pretty darn close to an even exchange. So that's where the kicker comes in, is that where the extra funds are is because of that interlocal agreement.
I think that we move towards the greener position, seeing that the costs are absorbed in the CIP. I personally, I mean, I know this is a significant increase, but that's my opinion.
Mr. Stokes?
Yeah, have we looked at any sort of grants or any other way to possibly get some reimbursement for going to a greener alternative for our waste disposal? Is that, we looked at that? Is there anything out there for that? I feel like with the nationwide push to greener, and especially that's coming from the federal level as well, there might be something out there?
We haven't looked. I'm not saying that there's not. I can't speak that there is. I really don't have the answer to that question at all. I know from our end of it, from, like I said, the way it got presented to us, we were actually presented that the greener alternative was available to more trucking companies, and then as we got farther along into the RFP process, that's when we discovered that it was a Merrill Brothers only opportunity, that unless we specifically hauled it ourselves, they would not accept the biosolids from anybody but Merrill Brothers. It's part of their contract. They only allow Merrill Brothers to dump or a municipality directly. So that's when me and Mr. Stefopoulos looked at that and talked about that as a consideration. Is, do we want to get back in the trucking business? Do we want to begin to do that, go down that path? And which direction do we want to go? And it was really become a cost and a capital cost of trucks and maintenance and tires and things like that that became the big kicker, that it would have been a lot larger capital cost up front to be able to do that. And then an additional employee potentially to be able to make that haul.
Mr. Nichols?
A couple of things. So we only really got one bid for that green item, and if they've got this exclusive rights to it, it just kind of puts it in a kind of a monopoly kind of thing, that we're kind of have our hands tied with the price. So it's, I feel I have a hard time giving a contract to somebody if there's no other bids out there for it. It's a sole source kind of deal, I guess. The other thing is that the cost savings, or the additional cost, I mean, it's not just free, even though we can absorb it, it's going to go into another, project. I mean, it's $300,000-$400,000 over 5 years, and we're going to end up spending that money one way or another. So it's a substantial amount of money, and that's really my concern.
Mayor, just for clarification, and Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the actual contract term is for 36 months as represented in Section A purpose. For 36 months of continuous service, or if that's just for the hauling component. But I wanted to make sure that way we were clear on whether it's 3 years or 5 years for the initial contract period. And while he's looking at that, Mr. Stokes, just to answer your question about grant funding, typically you would not find grant funding for the people who are providing the materials to the facility that's producing the compost. But for an entrepreneur who's looking to set up a compost facility, you may find that there are state or federal grants available to help get it off the ground.
I do not think that we could have found a more perfect issue to discuss on Public Works Week.
And we've honestly done a lot of work, and I agree 100% with Mr. Nichols. We did not know this was a kind of a sole source scenario, and as a matter of fact, one of our bidders even bid to take it to Indian Head, and we had to call back and say, have you talked to them? And they said, no, we thought we could, and we're like, no, look at an addendum that came out that said, no, you can't. So we had to discard that bid because they could not haul it there. So we were kind of not necessarily led down the 100% true path as we began down this process. So I can honestly say a lot of the scenario has changed since I actually presented the briefing, because our opportunity was, we believe anybody could truck there. And when I asked that question, I don't think I got the full answer, because I believe when we left there that was the idea we had in our brain. And until the RFP come out, And they called us, actually Merrill called us and said, nobody else can haul there, are you sure? And that's when we found out, no, that nobody else could, so it is kind of a monopoly scenario. And we did ask for others, and we said if there's anybody else that has another place that they can haul to that does the same thing, there were just no other bids received to be able to do that, so. And I think it really does make sense if you had a tipping fee, it makes sense, it makes it a push on the cost. But unfortunately, we've got a different set of cards that we're playing with.
Mr. Mason?
Yes, I was thinking about it, well, my colleagues were asking these questions, and it raised a red flag where the Indian place was only allowing Merrill Brothers. And for me, I don't like it. Like Mayor Pro Tem said, kind of like, feels like a monopoly. As much as I want to go green, and I want to be there as a city, I just can't really support this and going with Merrill Brothers and going green. I know we could absorb this amount. I just don't like the idea that only one company is allowed to dump by waste there at all whatsoever.
Mr. Jansen?
Did we get an answer on the 36 months?
It is, it's right on the front, I'm sitting there looking through every page, but it does say for a period of 36 months on the first page of the contract, both actually, other submittals right on the front.
Yeah.
So, and I thought it was 5, we had done 5 previous, so.
Puts them on the shorter string, so we're not on the, or as much. We can revisit it in 3 years.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear. I didn't hear what you said.
I said we could revisit it in 3 years. Puts it on a shorter string.
Well, I didn't really pick up on a consensus, so I guess if anybody wants to hop on and make a motion, we'll go one at a time and see where we go from there.
I'll go ahead. I move we award bid number 2021-04 sludge hauling to Revenue Inc. in the amount of $25.91 per ton for hauling and tipping biosolids to the Trailhead landfill.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and this is the option that we would consider less environmentally friendly, but would also keep us with no, I'm sorry.
That is correct.
Sorry.
You're right.
Okay, so the less environmentally friendly option, but also the less cost to the city, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Discussion by council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding? Yes. Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Next item, 096, do we have a presentation from staff?
This item is seeking authorization to purchase and install shade shelters at the splash pads at South Beach Park. And we have a representative from Parks and Recreation who will talk just a little bit about the project.
Good evening. Trevor Hughes, Superintendent, Parks and Recreation. We are looking to install a shade shelter over the splash pad at Sunshine Park. In our recent Parks and Rec survey, one of the #1 responses was the need for more shade in our playgrounds. Obviously at Sunshine Park, the playground, it's currently out for RFP, and the shade over the playground will be addressed at that time. Our splash pad, however, does sit out in the middle of the sun, and I know you think it's a splash pad, they're wet, but a small portion of the splash pad gets covered by the water. The concrete gets very hot. The parents also have to stand out in the sun the whole time. So our goal was to cover 50% of the splash pad during the hottest portions of the day. So we had a sun survey done and a shade specialist design. I just went blank, I'm sorry. So we've gone with a structure that's very similar to what's already existing at the skate park. We've gone with the tall columns, the sails. The colors will be very similar to the colors that are at the skate park. It comes with a 2-year warranty and workmanship. The structure itself comes with a 20-year warranty. The sails have a life expectancy of 10 to 12 years, and the cost is approximately 30%, so about $15,000 to $20,000 in 10 years. The funding will be provided by the CRA funds, and we did present to the CRA 2 weeks ago, and they were in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Can we get a motion?
I move that we approve the purchase and installation of shade shelters for the splash pads at South Beach Park from Shade America, Inc.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Nichols.
I do think this type of shading does look really good, and I think at the skate park it looks really well too. I just needed to know, did you personally test out the splash pad while reviewing this project?
The police probably would have been called. Like me on the splash pad, for sure.
I just want to comment because I never miss an opportunity to comment on this. I haven't been out there in a while, but you said the parents have to stand around in the sun. And I've always been an advocate for more seating out there, so I don't know if that's been improved. I know Mr. Petites has heard me say that a million times, so saying it here on the record, but I think this is a great idea, and I think it will be very welcome by our former colleague, Mr. Phil Vogelsang. Is there, Mr. Mott?
There are chairs there now.
There are.
Resin chairs in the splash pad.
And we did just purchase 16 benches, and a portion of them will be dedicated to the splash pad, some on the inside of the fence and some on the outside in the shaded areas, and then several more scattered throughout the park.
And you're going to be able to adopt those? Is that part of that program also?
That portion is still up in discussion. Because these benches are being purchased by CRA funds, we can't take donations for them.
Great news. I'm glad I brought it up. Any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golden?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Item 097, anything from staff?
This resolution is taking a look at the first set of applications for the honorary street name designation program. And we'll have Molly Alliger speak a little bit to that.
Hi, I'm Molly Alliger, Parks and Rec. Staff's recently received 7 applications for the Fallen Wartime Military Veteran Street Sign Program. Each one met our criteria to be passed on to you, and Public Works also approved each location that was proposed in the applications. We also worked with communications to get QR codes for each sign, and each one will have its own blurb for all the individuals.
Thank you, Molly. We do have a speaker card on this one. Mr. Thomas Harrell, if you want to come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
My name is Thomas Harrell, 7985 Plummer Road in Jacksonville. I'm one of 6 sons, 6 kids that lived here. Roger and Stanley were Marines. I have a brother, Freddie, with the Air Force. We had 3 Marines, 1 Air Force. Roger was a lifeguard of the year twice here at Jackson Beach. He went to Stetson University, then joined the Marine Corps, was flight instructor of the year at Pensacola 3 times. He was killed July the 29th of '69. Stanley was killed November 1st of '68, less 9 months apart. Leonard Jevitt called me 3 or 4 weeks ago for permission for the families to put these up. I think it's the greatest thing Jackson Beach has ever done. I'd appreciate it if every one of you would approve this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Thank you for your families.
I got one more thing. In the United States, you had 32 families
that gave 2 sons in Vietnam. You had 2 of those families here in Jacksonville, Rex and James Fain, and Stanley and Roger Harrell.
Thank your family for their service and sacrifice
Thank you, Madam.
to our country. That's all for speaker cards. Madam Clerk, will you read the resolution by title?
A resolution of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, approving applications and honorary street name designation sign locations for fallen wartime military veterans under the honorary street sign designation policy, authorizing sign installation, providing for adoption of recitals, repeal of prior inconsistent resolutions and council decisions, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. On a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2085-2021, approving the application and proposed signage locations in accordance with the honorary street name designation policy.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and I see Molly's come back to the podium. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Mr. Stokes?
I don't have any questions, but reading these stories, it's a history buff myself, and you know, when I was a kid, I learned everything I could about World War II and Vietnam, and then reading these things, and now doing this program, it really, it got a little emotional for me, just being able to do something for these families that gave so much for our country, and you know, I just thank you for bringing this program to us, and thank you for all of the people who have served, and this is a very small thing that we can do to honor their sacrifice. So I got a little emotional today, and just wanted to say that I'm really happy this is something that we're doing, and it's one of the better things that we get to do this year, I think. So thank you.
Mr. Nichols?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just an outstanding program, and I'm very honored to be able to vote in favor of it.
And you snuck in here, but I want to recognize Mr. Lenny Jevick, who has done the heavy lifting on this across the beaches community. So I noticed you didn't throw out a speaker card this time, but we know where your sentiments are, and we appreciate all your work. No other comments? Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. I noticed our Moms Demand Action Group slipped in here. We've just got one more item, so we'll just do your proclamation at the end of the meeting, if that's okay with you guys. Next up, we're moving into ordinances. And Madam Clerk, will you read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to amend Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20, Parks and Recreation, Article 4, Park Rules and Regulations, Section 20-14B, Hours of Operation, and 20-14C, Fiscal Year Holiday Hours, providing for adoption of recitals and legislative findings, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. I'd now like to this ordinance is before the council for a public hearing and consideration on its second reading. I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2021-8166. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the ordinance? Would anyone like to speak for or against the ordinance? This public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2021-8166, amending City Code of Ordinance, Chapter 20, Article 4, Section 20-14B and 20-14C on the second reading.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and this is the second reading, and we've been briefed on this issue previously. Is there any additional comment or discussion from the council? Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. That's the final business item on our agenda. We did want to go back and revisit a proclamation from earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and read it from the dais and then adjourn the meeting, and then we'll do
photo op and everything like that with the actual proclamation. So bear with me, this one's a little lengthy. Whereas every day more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, along with more than 230 who are shot and wounded, and on average there are more than 13,000 gun homicides each year, with Americans being 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas Florida experienced 2,752 gun deaths in 2019, with a rate of 12.5 deaths per 100,000 people, and Florida has the 31st highest rate of gun deaths in the United States. And in Florida, firearm deaths are the second leading cause of death for children and teens. Whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities, and Duval County has a rate of 20.5 deaths per 100,000 people. And whereas protecting public safety in communities they serve is a mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best and are most familiar with the local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever, as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than a year of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. And whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. And on June 4th, 2021, to recognize the 24th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can within the parameters allowed by federal and Florida law to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our communities and children safe. Now, therefore, I, Christine H. Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Jacksonville Beach, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim June 4th, 2021 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day and encourage all citizens to support their community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor the value of human lives. That's it. Thank you all for your attention attending the meeting. It is adjourned.